It's time for City Beat, your source for all the latest news on the city of Thompson. Only on 102.9 CHTM, your radio station.
And this is City Beat for Thursday, April 17th. I'm Sue O'Brien, and I'm joined by Mayor Tim Johnston, who's ready to give us some updates on what's going on in Thompson. And just a reminder, if you have questions, call in to 677-8181, and we'll be sure to get them to the mayor. So, Tim, what's been keeping you busy this past week?
Well, it's been a fairly busy week that we've had in a number of different areas. In terms of some of the meetings that we were able to host over the last week, we were very pleased. Last Thursday afternoon, we had representatives from the Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party here, including the leader of the official opposition, Brian Pallister. And I really appreciate him taking the time to come up and visit us. I've always said it's important to meet with all levels of government and all political parties, because you never know what's going to happen, and you always want to make sure that you've done your homework in terms of sharing some of the issues. So we had a chance to talk about some of the challenges that we as a community face, that we would look forward to any provincial government providing us support. Obviously, the continued work with Vale on the importance of mining to our community, the importance of exploration in Manitoba, as well as the need for Manitoba to continue to play a role as a leading mining province in Canada. Talked a little bit about justice and the cadet program, as well as the need for the Northern Restorative Justice Facility. And then obviously some of the other areas in terms of the Thompson Economic Diversification Working Group, infrastructure. And then one of the ones that we did have a chance to talk about was that one of the real benefits of living in northern Manitoba is the quality of life, and the need to really enhance that quality of life for people in terms of additional opportunities for camping, whether that's the upgrading of the provincial park at Paint Lake in terms of additional campsites and electrical sites, as well as the need to provide more opportunities for families to cottage and the need for more cottage lots. So always pleased to pass along those messages, because it's important, again, to ensure that people understand where we're at as a community. I always say that the City of Thompson will always be at the table, and we will contribute resources as well. I don't just like asking for things from other levels, but we're there to contribute, and so we always look forward to working on a positive relationship. Last Friday morning, we had a breakfast meeting with Wendell Fitzpatrick from Nickel Days, just start the planning for this year's event, which is, believe it or not, coming sooner than people think it is. It's not that far away, and so we look forward. I was reminded that this will be the first year that it's actually at the facility with the asphalt, so that's going to be good for everyone. Also, last Friday, we met with Kuwaitan Tribal Council, Chairperson Chief Walter Spence and Sharon McKay, on our ongoing relationship and the need to improve and enhance opportunities for economic development in our community. And then in the afternoon, I had a chance to meet with new Acting Chief Marcel Moody from NCN, and a chance to get updated in terms of some of the things that he's looking forward to doing. So those are some of the meetings last week. This week, of course, we had a regular meeting of council on Monday evening. I do want to acknowledge that we had some very special guests in the audience. We had the 737 Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron along with their instructor Brett Hansen, and it's great to see youth coming out to those meetings. I'm sure it's a bit of a challenge for them to sit through it, but it's part of their citizenship training, and so that was good to see. And then I just came this morning from an Industrial Skills, Trades and Training Center board meeting, and this is an initiative that came out of the economic diversification work, looking at developing a trade center, which we know is one of those big issues in our community. So, as I said, fairly busy week with some of the meetings, and obviously dealing with the water breaks, the freezing lines, and the removal of snow. So, it's been a busy week.
Okay, and I'll just take a little quick run. How is the frozen water pipe issue? Is it holding steady, getting worse? What can you tell us?
The frozen pipes has been pretty much holding steady, and I caution people not to get too optimistic, because in fact we're really not into that season yet, and as soon as that air starts to warm up, it's going to start forcing the frost down. So again, I remind residents, please take a look at some preventative measures. If you're leaving town, especially this weekend, make sure someone's going into the house, turning the water on and off, just running it a little bit. If even if you don't use a lot of water, make sure you're using a little bit or leaving a tap going. Far better option than either having to have a plumber come in and fix and things like that. And then, of course, anyone who's incurring difficulties, we make the Norplex Pool and the Thompson Regional Community Center available for both shower facilities and water. But preventative maintenance, we've got some of the tips on our website. Encourage people to look.
Okay, and what's the longest anybody's been without water? Can you tell us? Do you know?
One that I was looking at, I think, and a couple that I was talking to was, I think it was 7 to 9 days. It was significant, and
Yeah.
there's things that we can do in terms of trying to address, and we're more than prepared to do that. The biggest thing we can do is preventative stuff, and then get the plumber in to work the line.
Okay, that's great. And I did notice some activity over at Project Northern Doorway here the last week. It's been fairly quiet since the blessing back in February. So is it about ready to open? Are we ready to launch?
Well, my hope is that we are ready to launch. We're getting close. My understanding is that they were facing some real challenges with staffing. I believe those have been addressed. My understanding was that they've gone through some of the applicants in terms of getting people in, and I had understood that it was either going to be this week or next week that we're going to start to move people into the program. And I think that that's really important. One, because we really need to get into the program, get it operating so we can see what do we need to change, how's it going, things like that. So it's been frustrating for sure not to see that program move forward as fast as we had hoped in terms of getting it open.
Okay, and will it maybe start operating with maybe a portion of the designated residents, like say starting with 8 if you've got half the staff available, and just kind of maybe see at that point what needs to be tweaked, whatever?
Yeah, my understanding was they did have some people that were approved through the process to come in, and I think that there's probably a good likelihood that that's where it's going to go. But my understanding is that we're going to start to see some people into the facility.
Okay, that's right. And I was just going to ask, I know that right now with the CMHA and the Northern Health Region, that there's a review going on. I mean, there was maybe a little bit of, confusion, I think, with some information. The old SPA, the old Service Purchase Agreement between the Burntwood Regional Health Authority and the CMHA was terminated. But that's a step, in the process, I guess, for the Northern Health Region, which is now representing us, and their service purchase agreement with the CMHA. So that's in review right now, and we're supposed to be getting a report back from them on May 31st, after Reg Taves has gone through all this and discussed with people. What if there is a revamp with that SPA, and and this is, just speculation, this is a hypothetical. What if they don't get all the funding, or if it is revamped in any way, shape, or form? Will that affect Project Northern Doorway?
Well, there's two things that I'd probably want to address here. First is that in terms of Project Northern Doorway, first and foremost, the Thompson Housing Agency has the property and will have a service agreement with the operator, which is Canadian Mental Health. So if Canadian Mental Health wasn't able to do that, then the housing agency would then go look for another service operator. So that's the Project Northern Doorway.
Okay.
On the other one, though, I can tell you that I have had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Tays, who I was very pleased came in to conduct the review. I've also had a chance to meet with the Regional Health Authority and with Canadian Mental Health, and I'm very pleased that the parties had a willingness to go to a review. And our position at the city is that both those agencies play a very important role, that it's important to have positive relationships, and it's important to have a clear understanding of what contracts say. There were 3 components to that contract, of which some had a direct impact on the community and the city of Thompson. For example, Canadian Mental Health delivers the operation of the Project Northern Doorway. They also do our graffiti program, for example. Yeah. So I think that there's some things there that were looked at, such as if there's 3 components to a contract, maybe you need 3 contracts instead of 1, that you need to ensure that people live up and understand the contracts. And what I thought was very positive was both parties had agreed to have someone come in and do a review. So I'm very confident that at the end of the day, again, those agencies play an important role. The programs that are being delivered are extremely important in the community, and we have to ensure that the program's service delivery continues. And I'm confident that we can do that. I also truly believe that it's the responsibility of all levels of government, including the municipal level, to build capacity in communities with community organizations. Because at the end of the day, so many community groups can do jobs significantly in a different way than government sometimes do. So I think building capacity is huge. So I look forward to that review. I'm absolutely confident that no matter what comes through that review, and I think it will give us good steps, recommendations to move forward, we will do what we need to do to ensure the delivery of the programs continue.
Okay, sounds good. And you did mention about Brian Pallister being in, the leader of the official opposition for Manitoba. I know last week the results of a poll that was conducted by Probe Research in Winnipeg came out and said 61% of Manitobans in the voting public sector supported the Conservative government. In general, 48% throughout, city and around, supported the Conservative government. How would that play out here in Thompson in general, or in particular, I guess I should say, considering we're typically an NDP stronghold, and actually the 5 northern, ridings are right now NDP. How would that working relationship be if all of a sudden we do have, and once again, hypothetical, but I mean, those are pretty amazing numbers, and that was the first time in 20 years that the NDP had come in third in that province-wide thing. So, I mean, that might change up things a little bit. So how would that, I mean, I know you talked about relationship building and whatever, but I mean, how would that perhaps change the face of how things go between the relationship between the North and South?
Well, it's always interesting. I think I've been in politics long enough now to understand there's only one poll that counts, and that's on election day. Bearing that in mind, I think that it's imperative to always have a strong and positive working relationship with the government in power, as well as all the other political parties. And I think that that's one of the things that during my time I've tried to stress, is that we need to ensure that we're playing a leadership role, and we foster positive relationships at both the provincial and the federal level, because you never know what's going to change in the future. And what I want them to understand about our municipal government is that we're open, we're willing to work with anyone. Our challenges remain the same no matter what government's in place, and we have been very strong in terms of putting those out. So we'll continue to do that, and I always welcome an opportunity, because I think it's an opportunity, whether it's ministers in the government or MLAs from other parties, when they visit Thompson, I encourage them to do that, because I think it gives us a chance to provide a little bit more information and education. So we'll play it out, and it's going to be it's an interesting run. 14, 15, 16, you got elections at different levels, and so there's going to be lots of those things coming out. I just think you continue on the business. I'm a firm believer that Thompson has a huge role to play in this province, and we'll continue to advocate and strong relationships.
Okay, because he was visiting, I believe they have the intention of the opposition party members to come up to Thompson and the northern regions to try to, maybe get a little bit more information and input on what's going on. One thing I would like to recommend is that they actually drive up and drive around and drive back and see what it's like to dedicate, 3 days perhaps to what will amount to maybe a 2-hour meeting, but have to give up 3 days of their time. Just kind of put it on a perspective that we do. Say, for example, if you have to go down to Winnipeg for a doctor's appointment and the doctor cancels and they say, well, can you come back in 2 days?
It's a very good point. One of the really interesting things that I found is that I think we have a great working relationship, but I worked for the province in Winnipeg for a number of years, and one of the things, I was often in the ledge, usually on a once every week or every 2 weeks, and I always remember seeing people from different communities, and it is absolutely imperative that you're there, because let's admit or acknowledge, we are somewhat isolated from the decision makers from a government point of view in Winnipeg. And so it's huge that you're either in their face or that they understand exactly what you're doing and your concerns. So we continue to push that hard, and I think we've had a very good reception, and I'm confident that that will continue no matter what. I also truly believe that the best democracy is when you have choices and when you have an option to speak to different people. So we'll continue to do that.
Okay, and we're heading into Easter weekend, Tim, so I'll maybe let you wrap up with a message, and if there's anything else coming up you'd like for us to know about.
Yeah, just a couple things. One is the weather is finally getting to that spring-like weather, so we're going to see a lot of water flowing in this community over the next few days. I urge people to take precautions, especially in and around the streets. They're going to get icy at nights because we're still going to get the cold nights, so please take caution. Watch out for the potholes. They're out there. Often they're filled with water, so be careful. We're warming up the mix so we can get out there as soon as that weather gets warm. Next week we'll be out filling them. We're going to continue to remove some snow. I've been to some of the areas. It looks great getting that snow out, and that speeds up the process of melting. I know street cleaning is an issue. I was in the BTC every day this week, including this morning. We know it's a challenge. We need to remove the snow. We'll continue to work on that, not just from a short-term solution, but a long-term solution. Bearing that in mind, I encourage people to come out tonight, 7 o'clock. The financial plan is going to be presented for the 2014 budget, 7 o'clock, City Hall. Encourage people to come out. This is where your tax dollars are going, and I'm happy to show you how we're going to spend them in the coming year, because I think it's the right way to go. Lastly, as you say, Easter weekend, I wish everyone a joyous weekend. Spend time with the families. Get out, enjoy yourself. And if you're traveling, please safe travels and have a great week.
Okay, and that's it for this edition of City Beat. Join us next Thursday if you have more questions, and we'll have some answers from the mayor. And remember to send your questions to CHTM@arcticradio.ca for 1029 CHTM. I'm Sue O'Brien.
City Beat will be back next Thursday.